The Trump administration is taking aim at a major Canadian export. The U.S. Commerce Department is hiking anti-dumping duties on Canadian softwood lumber to 20.56%.
Recovered late morning. Lumber futures are, of course, higher given the news on the 25% tariff on Canada. There is already a 14.5% duty on Canadian lumber.
Ottawa says it has a plan to fight back against new U.S. duties on Canadian lumber.
This is another unjustified tariff. You can expect us to fight against it, and you can expect us to take specific steps to protect those workers.
It started as a blunt demand. Trump wanted more Canadian lumber, fast. But instead of negotiating, the White House issued a veiled threat: cooperate or face new tariffs on Canadian auto parts. Ottawa saw it as economic blackmail. Insiders say the demand came without warning, catching Canada's trade ministry completely off guard. Within hours, the tension escalated from a trade ask to a political showdown. It wasn't a request, it was a dare. Trump tried to strong-arm his closest ally. It backfired. And in that moment, Detroit's future began to unravel. Canada's finance minister didn't flinch. With cameras rolling, she flatly rejected Trump's demands. "We don't negotiate under threat," she said, standing beside a shipment of lumber bound for Germany, not America. The signal was unmistakable. Canada would rather lose the U.S. market than bow to pressure. Construction firms across Michigan panicked as word spread. The phones at home builders associations lit up with cancellations. Carney didn't just say no, he slammed the door. And the economic shock hit Detroit within 48 hours. By Friday morning, Detroit's skyline went eerily quiet. Work crews vanished. Cranes stopped mid-swing. Construction bosses blamed soaring lumber prices, up nearly 40% in just 2 days. One major home builder halted 5 projects in a single morning, citing material volatility. Across the city, foundation pits are now puddles. Cement trucks rerouted. Real estate agents report mass deal withdrawals. Detroit's growth engine just ran out of fuel overnight. And it's the working class that's left in the dust. Think lumber is just for homes? Think again. From car plant scaffolding to shipping pallets to wood-trimmed interiors, Canadian softwood is baked into the DNA of auto production. Stellantis, GM, and Ford all rely on it in subtle but critical ways. Now, they're scrambling to source inferior or costlier substitutes, and that hits margins fast. One exec called it a silent crisis we never planned for. Lumber isn't just a construction issue, it's an assembly line threat. And Detroit's automakers are feeling it from the bolts up. The U.S. Commerce Department quietly raised anti-dumping duties on Canadian softwood lumber to 20.56%, a move Trump's team framed as leveling the field. But for small and mid-sized builders, it was a death sentence. Unlike large firms, they can't hedge or absorb the shock. One Michigan contractor says a single-family home just got $14,000 more expensive, instantly. Suburbs near Detroit are halting developments. For small businesses, this wasn't protectionism, it was a bullet. And the casualties are piling up block by block. Canada could have retaliated broadly. Instead, they went surgical. Mark Carney ordered a targeted review of U.S. imports concentrated in Trump strongholds: Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan. Aluminum, auto parts, even processed food from Wisconsin are now under retaliatory threat. "We're not here to escalate," Carney said. "We're here to respond proportionally." But let's be clear, it's a bullseye on the Rust Belt. Trump punched, Canada aimed, and struck back hard. And it's red state voters who'll feel it first. The pain didn't stay in the supply chain. It hit families fast. In Detroit, landlords raised rents almost overnight, citing sudden material inflation. A duplex in Corktown saw a $300 rent jump in a single week. And it's not just Detroit. Milwaukee, Cleveland, and Buffalo are seeing the same. One housing analyst warned, "When lumber costs surge, rent hikes follow within days." The tariff hit the sawmill. The cost hit your lease. And renters, especially in low-income zip codes, are drowning first. Mortgage brokers are hitting the brakes. With material prices spiking and home valuations swinging, many banks are pulling back lending in high volatility zones, including Detroit. First-time buyers are walking away. Real estate deals once deemed hot are now in limbo. One economist called it 2008 light. It's not a full housing collapse, yet. But the cracks are forming. Detroit's fragile rebound is buckling, and fast. And this time, it's a policy-made disaster. If this breakdown is opening your eyes, hit that subscribe button. We cut through the noise, no spin, no fluff, just raw economic impact. And stick around. What Canada does next could shake Wall Street. Prefab and modular builders were supposed to solve the housing crisis, but they relied heavily on low-cost Canadian lumber to keep things efficient. Now, orders are drying up. A major modular firm outside Grand Rapids just laid off 60% of its crew. Another in Toledo shut down entirely. These aren't luxury condos, they're affordable housing units. We didn't just lose jobs, we lost solutions. And the homelessness problem just got a lot harder to fix. It's not just about politics. Logistics are choking too. Rail lines from Ontario into Michigan are facing mass delays. Canadian firms are refusing to load US-bound shipments until trade clarity returns. Even paid-for cargo is sitting idle. "We can't afford to ship lumber into chaos," said one Quebec exporter. It's not an embargo, it's paralysis. And that's even worse for companies already running on razor-thin margins. You'd expect American lumber companies to cheer this tariff hike. But behind closed doors, they're furious. The National Association of Home Builders and even timber trade groups are calling on Trump to reverse course. Their concern? Canada might permanently reroute exports to Europe, leaving US supply chains dry even after the dust settles. This wasn't a win, it was a warning shot. And now, even the winners are begging for a truce. While the US argues with itself, Canada is already moving on. Lumber shipments are being rerouted to the Netherlands, France, and Germany, all willing to pay a premium. One executive from British Columbia said, "Europe just became our plan A." Contracts once held by Detroit builders are being snapped up by Berlin developers. America blinked. Europe bought in. And Canada may never come back. The markets just rang the alarm. Homebuilder stocks dropped 7% in 48 hours. Real estate investment trusts, especially those with Midwest exposure, lost billions in value. Analysts are whispering about contagion risk. When one sector wobbles, others follow. A single trade war ripple just spooked the entire housing-linked economy. Investors aren't betting on a rebound, they're running. And Detroit's fragile recovery just lost its safety net. For a moment, Detroit had momentum. Startups moved in, artists came back, college grads chose it over Chicago. But now, that momentum's evaporating. Young professionals are hitting pause, or heading out. Rent spikes, job layoffs, and shuttered developments are pushing talent elsewhere. One tech recruiter called it 2020 in rewind. Detroit's brain gain just turned into another brain drain, and it's happening faster than anyone expected. Rumors are swirling in Ottawa. Canada might nationalize key lumber producers to control exports directly. This would let the government decide who gets shipments, and when. Experts warn this could shut the US out completely, turning a trade war into a supply lockdown. "This isn't just tariffs anymore," said one insider. "It's economic sovereignty in action." Canada's next move could be a full blockade. Detroit won't see it coming. Detroit stands at a crossroads. Will it recover from this lumber crisis or spiral deeper into decline? Policymakers are scrambling, but solutions won't come cheap or fast. Some suggest investing in domestic timber alternatives. Others push for trade diplomacy. Meanwhile, everyday Detroiters brace for higher rents and fewer jobs. Detroit's fate hinges on decisions made now, and fast. The rebuilding clock is ticking. Detroit's collapse didn't start with a recession. It started with a tariff. Trump demanded lumber, but his bluff backfired spectacularly. Canada stood firm, slamming the door and redirecting shipments across the Atlantic. Detroit's construction sites fell silent, rents surged, and the auto industry scrambled. The fallout is a stark reminder. Trade isn't just numbers, it's lives, jobs, and futures. Stay tuned, because what happens next in this escalating fight will shape America's heartland.